When I first heard the synopsis of The Giver, I felt like it was interesting. It was like a society somewhere in the future. There's no specific date or time. Everyone is the same. They got rid of emotions. They got rid of unnecessary things, and it's the perfect society. But there's clearly no free will, no creativity. But then I saw it was just another one of those novel turned movies kind of deals with a bunch of teenagers being the saviors of the society. And at first I was a little worried to fall into the regular trope of bland characters and just, well, an interesting world. It doesn't live up to its full potential. But when I finally got to see this movie, it was actually a lot of fun. I actually liked the characters a lot, especially the main lead, and it made sense as to why he was, put in the position that he was put in. However, I will say, they say they gave him the position of, I believe, the wisdom keeper or archives keeper, someone who knows the memories, the past, and everything, holds all the information in his head. They said they selected him because he was intelligent and saw beyond. But then I see these things under their wrist, like this little blot, like I guess a birthmark, and that's ultimately what it is. It has nothing to do with his intelligence or his curiosity or anything like that. It was just, if you're born with this mark, your destiny is pretty much set. You're like, yeah, you're destined to know everything. Okay. Yeah, he mentioned it in the movie. It's like, oh, this baby has the same birthmark as me. He's gonna grow up to be just like me. It's like, okay. And I will say that the society itself, or as they call it, the community, on some points it is hilarious, and on other points it's scary. I mean, really, just what the hell scary. Like, how can anyone, just go along with this blindly? But then they explain as to how that happens. But on the funny parts, it's, oh, you're 9 years old. It's like, congratulations, completing halfway your training. Here's a bicycle. It's like, if these kids had any like sense of creativity in them, I honestly feel like they would have been like, a bicycle? Really? That's all I get for all the hard work I put into it? But when it needs to be funny, it is funny, especially when they're showing emotion, when they're finally showing emotion and actually like actions that portray these emotions, like kissing, holding hands, and all these old people who have grown up to not knowing nothing of emotion and no creativity or feeling anything for another person. When they look at this and it's like, what is that? What is that? What is that? I'm so curious. What is this alien concept of kissing? It's like, it is hilarious when those parts of this community show up. It's hilarious. But then when they actually show some of the darker side as to society, if they're not strong or don't serve a purpose in their community, they get rid of them. And doing that to old people or to someone who's sick, I've seen it plenty of times in other TV shows or movies. And while it's still disturbing, it's almost to the point where it's played out. But then when they actually do this to, okay, major spoiler if you haven't read the book, they actually do the same thing to babies. I mean, actual babies who are barely maybe like a month or two old. And they say like, oh, he's not as big or healthy as the other babies. Kill him. And like, the way they show it, they actually show the dead baby, lifeless, in this guy's hands. And it's just like, oh my god, I can't believe I just saw that. Whoa. This is, I think, PG-13. So, as long as there's no blood, we can still show a dead baby. It's like, but either way, when the color actually starts seeping into the movie, it makes sense and it's beautiful how the main character, I believe Jonas, starts to learn how to see these colors and actually starts learning about feelings and emotions. And I love how he's so enthusiastic. I want to see more. I want to know more about the past, about cultures and dancing and expressing yourself and art and loving each other and singing and dancing and laughing. However, when I really think about it, the society itself is not as dull and gray as I would have thought it would be. I thought it would be just people walking around like robots. It's like, oh look, you'll get your meal. Nutrition is important. Do that. No, they actually still are able to emote certain actions, especially anger, concern, anxiety, and they even ask, "Hey, are you feeling anxious?" And it's like, okay, so they're not completely devoid of emotion, just emotions that are considered useless or dangerous, like love or anger or hatred or jealousy, stuff like that lead to hurting one another. And even the concept of punching each other is lost on these people. It's like, oh my god, did you just punch me? That's so weird. Like, why? What just happened? And it's almost hilarious because they clearly have a form of military or like police force, and yet even these police force seems to be surprised at acts of violence too. It's like, then why even have a police force in the first place? But I really do like this movie. It has a great concept, great characters, and I also feel very bad for Jonas when he starts to learn about the darker side of humanity, the war and the cruelty to each other and torture, and it really does weigh heavy on him. I mean, just seeing an elephant get killed by poachers, it makes him break down pretty much and start crying, and it's something that haunts him. He can't sleep at night. He worries about what more he's gonna learn. And when he finally gets to that part of tragedy of human history, of people constantly fighting each other and blowing each other's brains out, it really just pushes him over the edge, and he really doesn't know what to do, and he really doesn't know who's right and who's wrong. And on some points, it does bring up a good question as to, are these people right to just get rid of emotions and live this life of monotony and will not worry about emotions and just really like has a perfect society where everyone has a job as soon as they get out of school. They go into training. They have good nutrition. They have they're friendly with each other. There's no popularity. There's no losers or winners. There's just people and with skills, and those skills are put to the test when they're given these jobs. On one point, I will say that the society had some points right. Like, really like looking at someone's skills while in high school and then immediately giving them a job that they would be suited for right off the bat. Now, like, you could say that would take away free wills. Like, what if they don't want that job? What if they want something better? But you have to realize, as soon as you're out of school, you don't really know what you want. Most of the time, anyway. You just have this vague idea of how you want to live the rest of your life. And if that doesn't work out, you're screwed because you didn't really have the patience to sit back and, really look at what you have already, what your skills are. And even if you don't like a job, you might be better suited for it because that's your skill set. That's what you've been working on since you were in high school. And it's a little late to start doing something else. So this movie does bring a lot of good questions that I love hearing about. I love having to discuss with other people. So really, this movie was fantastic. Almost makes me wish I read the book before. And even near the end, I felt like Jonas was being a bit irresponsible by bringing the baby with him and on this dangerous journey, and the baby was gonna get killed somehow. But the ending, it made me feel like I really want to see what happens to this community now that they have their emotions back, and now that they have all these feelings being returned to them. Like, they had this realization of what they've been doing, and I would have loved to see more of that. I hope there is a second book or a sequel, because I really want to know more about this community and how it's going to come back into the swing of things after they've lived, I believe, generations of no feelings at all, and just science and mathematics and just punctuality and rules and all this stuff. So this was a fantastic movie. I loved it. I mean, every time throughout the whole thing, I was sitting there and was like, oh, okay. I mean, this is interesting. I want to see more. I'm edge of my seat. There's no big explosion and giant action scenes, despite what you could have thought, from the trailer. And that's fine. It's a nice quiet ending to pretty much a nice and quiet movie. Throughout the whole thing, there's barely any yelling or excitement or screaming or just... And the little moments that there are, it makes sense. I mean, especially from Jonas, because of what he's just starting to learn. And it really does make me feel like this is a fresh breath of air of a film, compared to what's out right now. Most of their movies that are based on novels have all these teenagers or young adults thrown into these action-packed, movies, and just like explosion, like death at every corner, and it's just like, I'm tired of this. It's like, and while some points of this movie do share a lot of similarities with those other movies, like The Chosen One being born, or he's special, or he's learning more about the world and its cruelties and trying to save a society or community. It's fantastic that it's not really the fear of himself, getting killed. He's just like, really, like, people need to know, even if it hurts them, people need to know about feelings and about the concept of life and death. And he's really not doing it just to save himself. He's doing it to really wake people up to the fact that they've been brainwashed, essentially. And really, that was a nice touch to this movie. I would really love to see a sequel, more based on what happened with the community after the end of this movie. How are they integrating back into the swing of culture and dance and expression and creativity? Are they adapting well, or is it just complete chaos and they don't know what to do anymore? Or some of them haunted by some of the things they've done while they were essentially brainwashed? And it would be great if the sequel was about that. If there is a sequel, maybe the way it ended, it made it seem like there wasn't one, and maybe there isn't. Who knows? And if there is no sequel, it'd be fine, because again, like I said, this movie is fantastic by itself. It's a nice film. I really did love it a lot. So all in all, I'd have to give this movie a pretty much big thumbs up. It was fantastic. Go see it, definitely. If you're a fan of the book, definitely go see it. I don't know if there's changes from the book to the movie, because like I said, I didn't read the book, but I'm sure, if you're just a fan of the book, this movie seems to get it, the concept right. It just really pleases the eyes. It is fantastic. I loved it. All in all, I'm Tony Dragon, and bye-bye.